Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great Vera question, and that is, how do you handle or manage the sort of entitlement that you will experience in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic? When we talk about someone who is narcissistic, there oftentimes is exhibited a sense of pathological sense of self-importance. In other words, it's a me, me, me scenario. And it can feel very one-sided, very harsh, very rude, and disrespectful. And this sort of sense of entitlement can be felt as a sort of stress, a sort of pressure, a sort of demand, unrelenting, and oftentimes with complete and utter disregard for the facts. There is a high degree of the illogical and the impossible. It's just like, no matter what, get this done. Do this for me. I want this now. And it's very akin to, for example, like a temper tantrum. A sort of put me first, move me up ahead. And this sort of sense of entitlement can also present as disrespect, as a sort of sarcastic sense of humor, where, it's not haha funny, it's that there's someone else at the other end of the joke that is paying the price for the humor. In other words, there's sort of a critical or highly judgmental aspect or tone to the sense of humor, where it's really plagued by put downs and everybody sort of laughs to disband the tension. So how do you cope with this? Well, the sense of entitlement, number one, realize that don't take it personally. A pathological sense of self-importance on the part of the narcissist is just how they operate. It's business as usual for them. It's their operatus moderandi, MO, whatever it is you want to call it. It is how they move forward. It is their blueprint. It is how they structure their public persona. It is that sort of, look at me, all eyes on me, because of this, I deserve that. In other words, it's oftentimes very illogical. Move me up in line, put me at the top of the list. They're just sort of, it's like an emotional bribery that I am more valuable, so do this for me. And it's, oftentimes, people deserve urgent treatment, and it can be very well founded. However, with a narcissist, it can be relentless, it can be ongoing, and it can be chronic. And it can also present itself as very harsh, rude, or cold, and present as disrespect to others in the environment. And so this disrespect, it takes people aback. It renders them on a reactive basis, or they overthink and overanalyze, and then they get into an analysis paralysis, and they find themselves far off from their center and how they would like to manage the relationship. They find themselves way out, and then they find themselves at a new crossroads. In other words, there has to be a change. I'm not giving in. I'm not conceding to this anymore. So in order to handle it gracefully, number one, realize that not to take it personally. You're not receiving this treatment because you're too slow, you're too fast, you're too young, you're too old, you're too talented, you're not talented enough, you have too much money, you don't have enough money. You're not receiving this treatment because of any of those reasons that you might sort of brew up in your mind. It is just how a narcissist navigates their environment, particularly those who want to be, close with them. These people present a specific threat because you might, call them out to be accountable. You might call them out to be responsible. And oftentimes the entitlement makes them, in the narcissist's mind, that they don't have to be responsible, that they should be able to be irresponsible, that they don't have to abide by the rules, the law, the structure that is set forth, that because of who they are, their whatever, of their excuse, that they just deserve to not be held accountable to the same rules, laws, or regulations as everyone else. There's an everyone else, and then there's me. Sort of a feeling that you will get towards the narcissist, that they set themselves apart from the crowd. It makes them so special. And oftentimes there might be something special about them, but not special enough that they, just don't need to treat others with respect. To be able to wait their turn, to do what is required, do the work, do the steps, do whatever it is that might cause or create some effort on their part. Oftentimes, they might expect others to do the dirty work and that they should be above it. So realize that if you're receiving this treatment, that it's not personal. You don't have to take it personally. So if you're doing that as part of, your coping, and that then you are finding yourself over obligating, laughing when things aren't funny. There are jokes which oftentimes are done with sarcasm or judgment upon others. In other words, someone else is always the butt end of the joke. It's not really that funny, but the narcissist kind of expects everybody just to chime in, because to challenge them once again is to be in opposition to a narcissist. And so that's when you sort of get the real treatment, or you find that you're then in a battle of wits or otherwise, or the person just storms out and they don't want to hold themselves. They feel that they only deserve to associate with special people in special circumstances, and that they aren't going to be open to this. And they might say some very hurtful things. I don't want to know you anymore. I don't want to talk to you. All these different things that are very hurtful and disrespectful to the core. Don't take it personally. It's not that you're failing them. Oftentimes these people can't see the forest for the trees. That is just their perspective. They have a pathological sense of self-importance that they feel puts them above and beyond, oftentimes without the work that is required. They, want to take credit for others or the way that things work out. I told you I was right, and this is just, they are unrelenting. So number one, don't take it personally. Number two, don't concede or give in. Just clearly and have it, adopt a very dispassionate tone, and just set things fact in a very matter-of-fact, objective manner. You need to have that as a foundation, rather than feeling that you need to cheat yourself, cheat the system, or whatever it is that the narcissist is expecting to do. So, let them just go. Let that sort of demand go. Allow them to figure it out on their own. Don't serve as a crutch. Don't serve as an enabler. Don't serve as a block for them just to lean on. Be able to cut, clean corners and say, this is what it is, and just period, end of story. You don't have to be overly sensitive to their feelings. If you find that you've, catered to their feelings and tried to hear them out, and you sort of bought into that narcissist story, begin to back off of it. Just begin to have discussion with yourself and just deliver, the type of communication that is needed to keep them in their place. And, without saying, explaining and justifying why they're to be held, to this, because of this, and just sort of explain and justify. Don't put yourself in the corner. Don't allow yourself to be put into the corner that the narcissist will create for you. Be able to reach above and beyond, and realize that you deserve respect. In order to receive respect, oftentimes you have to give yourself self-respect. And just explain, a self-respecting person wouldn't tolerate this. A self-respecting person wouldn't have to over-obligate. A self-respecting person wouldn't be lured down this rabbit hole. And just have that discussion with yourself, and just develop a boundary and a standard. In other words, if you can't do this, so be it. If you can't arrive, so be it. Don't try to fight, explain, and justify why things should be different. Begin to, have the tough love. Begin to make declarations. Begin to make commitments. And if they're there, so be it. If they're not, so be it. Eventually, if they're good people, they will come around and kind of get what your blueprint is, what your apparatus moderandi, your MO, your structure, your process, your needs, your self-respect, and then they'll have to be able to cooperate, if not comply with that. Don't feel, even if it's got to get more difficult before it gets easier, begin to have that discussion with yourself of self-respect, and be able to know what self-respect feels like. Number one, before you even articulate it, take a step back and know what self-respect feels like to you. What would it look like playing out? What would be the discourse? What would be the communication? What would the discussion look like? And being able to know that in your heart and in your mind's eye, and being able to recall that even several times a day so you can get that resonating within, so you can back yourself up. It's very important that you recognize this and don't take it personally. Don't feel that even if you've conceded before, you've bit the carrot, you've gone through the whole conceding to their special requests, special demands, you've sort of lowered your self-esteem, you've lowered your standards, reduced or annihilated your boundaries. Just realize that this is just how they are, and it's to give them the right as human beings and to acknowledge and validate that you don't have to change them. You don't have to make that your task. You don't have to make that your marching order. You don't have to make that your mission. Allow the bigger picture at hand to resolve that for you. Don't put the weight on your shoulders or blaming yourself for how they are. They are that as their own person. Allow them to be their own person, and furthermore, don't feel that you have to subject yourself to something that's unpleasant or disrespectful. You don't have to subject yourself. You can, protect yourself. Give them some space. Give yourself some space. And even if it means reducing contact, going no contact, or not conceding into unrealistic demands, is part of self-respect. And that will assist you and it will assist them moving forward. It will be in their best interest as well as your best interest to operate from a newly found sense of self-respect and to hold and enforce that. And then you'll understand that they will then begin to accept it. If this person is in your life, they'll see that you mean business. You'll see that you will require and then demand respect, oftentimes without even having to ask it, because your behavior and your energy speaks to that truth otherwise. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Have a beautiful day. You got this.